By the way, do you know how do you say hello in Spanish? Hola. So, hola. Welcome to this new lesson. And this new lesson is, you're going to find it in your new packet. Okay? So it's called The Boy Teacher. The Boy Teacher. So today we're going to talk about this boy. Do you happen to guess who this boy is? Let's see. Well, we are going to talk about Jesus because, yes, Jesus was a boy. Look at him. There you go. This is Jesus. So, I have a question for you because this is a very interesting story about Jesus. We don't have a lot of stories about Jesus when he was a kid. So, this is, I think, the only one we have in the Bible. But I have a question because Jesus was a kid just like you are a kid. Just the same. And he loved to do the same things that you love to do. Let's see. Have you ever gone to a big city? Have you ever gone to a big crowded place? With your family, with your friends, with a bunch of people. Have you ever gone on vacation to Disney with your whole family? A big family. Have you? And during this time where you were in this big crowded place, call it Disney or call it the mall, have you wandered off alone a little bit? Enough to, let's say, enough for people to start looking for you? Enough for your mom and your dad to start looking for you like crazy people? Have you gone through that? I have. That same thing happened to Jesus. Yes, to Jesus when he was a kid. Remember the temple we were talking about in our last class? The temple that Solomon built. Well, many years later, hundreds of years later, that temple was still in existence. And the temple was in Jerusalem, and people would make long journeys because there weren't airplanes, there weren't cars, so people usually would walk. And it took days, depending on where you were living, it took days to get to Jerusalem. So people would go into these long journeys to go there and to worship. But they didn't do it like us. We go to church every Sunday. They did it depending on whatever they were celebrating. Maybe once, twice, or 3 times a year, they would go to this big journey to get to the temple. And Jerusalem, during the time Jesus went to this big city, Jerusalem was celebrating one of their biggest holidays. And the name is Passover. And yes, I said is because Jewish still celebrate Passover. So Jesus, during Passover, because it was such a huge celebration, religious festivity or religious holiday, families will go through the journey of going to Jerusalem. And usually they would do it in big crowds. They weren't alone. They would do it in big crowds, like really big crowds. And Jerusalem, by the time they got there, Jesus and his family, Jerusalem was really crowded. It was a mess. It was a sea of people, just like when you go to the state fair. Have you ever gone to the state fair? Well, when you go to the state fair, you see a lot of people walking in every place and looking at different stuff, and a lot of different and interesting things are going on. So, as crowded as the state fair, and maybe a little more, who knows? And so many things were happening, just like the state fair. So, like every Jewish family, Jesus went with the whole family and friends and neighbors. They all went to Jerusalem. And they were a big group. Jesus, you know how old was he? He was 12 years old, and or so they say, because I wasn't there. So Jesus was around 12 years old. So he wasn't a little kid, but he wasn't a teenager. He wasn't an adult. So during this journey, he spent time with other kids in the group. He spent time playing with them, playing games, running around, and having fun conversations with them, just like you would, just like you do at school. Jesus was so busy, walking around and talking to his friends and looking at the very, very interesting things that were around. And Jerusalem was so crowded. Jerusalem was really, really busy, filled with people. And adults were in the group paying attention to the things that they had to do in order to celebrate properly Passover. The group where Jesus was had many adults. So the parents, Mary and Joseph, were confident that Jesus was safe. So they didn't have to pay attention every single second to Jesus. Well, so many interesting things happening in the city. And at the same time, being in a big city like Jerusalem at that time. And I don't know, have you ever gone to a big city? I know I asked you a little bit ago. Have you ever gone to a big city? Have you ever gone with your parents to Milwaukee? Have you ever gone to Chicago? Or, I don't know, New York? Well, Jerusalem was a very crowded and big city during his time. And one of the things that Jesus saw that got his attention was the temple. The temple that Solomon, many centuries before, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years before, had built. And he felt interested in the temple, and his curiosity was like right there. At the end of the day, when they were heading back home, Mary and Joseph noticed that Jesus was not with the group. Ooh. They went back to the city because they started asking people around in the group, have you seen Jesus? Have you seen Jesus? And no one had. So they were so worried. Can you imagine? They lost Jesus. So they hurried back to the city to try to find Jesus. And they felt so scared because when your parents think you are lost, they go so worried. And they worry so much and they become scared. So they went back to Jerusalem. They were scared and they started asking everyone around. Well, you saw the video. Everyone around. Their young son was all alone in a big city. And it was night already. But before I continue, let's just read the story, right? The story is called Lost and Found because guess who was lost? Or they thought he was lost. Jesus. And then they found him. Off to Jerusalem 3 times a year, families traveled for God's word to hear. Off to the temple to offer their praise on Passover, Pentecost, high holy days. Mary and Joseph took Jesus, their son. They walked to the festival, joined in the fun. Jesus was 12, and like all the boys do, he chanted the Torah, he studied Hebrew. Mary and Joseph, so proud of their boy, departed Jerusalem bursting with joy. Not knowing, of course, that their Jesus, so dear, remained in the temple, a day's walk from here, a day's walk. Mary, where's Jesus? Now, where could he be? Joseph, where's Jesus? He's not next to me. He's not with his cousins. He's not with his friends. Oh, how will we find him before the day ends? Jesus is in trouble. Back to Jerusalem, worried and worn, the 2 parents traveled to find their firstborn. They stopped at the temple to offer their prayer. They couldn't believe it. Son Jesus was there. Mary looks a little upset. Just saying. Teaching and speaking to elders all grown, asking them questions like one of their own. Mary, his mother, cried out to him then, Jesus, we worried. Don't do this again. He hugged her and answered, I'm safe in God's place. You thought I was lost, but that wasn't the case. I'm sorry you worried and searched all around. In my Father's house, we are already found. And that is the end of the story. So they thought Jesus was lost. I would have thought Jesus was lost too if I would have been Mary. But after a long time searching and asking around, you saw the video of looking everywhere, lifting sheep to see where he was. They found him in the temple, the place people believe God lived, God dwelled. And he was teaching. He was teaching grown people. He was teaching adults about God. Adults that were supposed to know about God. He was teaching them and asking questions. And the adults, they were amazed that this young kid could know so much about God and about God's teachings. And he would speak like someone that knows what he's saying. Jesus didn't feel lost. He was very happy in the temple. He said he was in his Father's house. That's interesting, right? And he said that everyone is safe in God's house. But he calls it my Father's house. Why would you think? Why do you think he called it my Father's house? Yes, you're right. Because Jesus is the Son of God. Mary told him, don't ever do this again. We were worried sick. And he obeyed. And they all went back home safe and sound. And now that the story's over, we are going to do a craft. This craft is called Finding the Story, because we're talking about lost things that get found. So, I did a little bit of work before this video. So I'm going to show you the paper that you have should look like something like this. Something like this. And all I did was I cut with the scissor along the what? The blue line. So that's why you see it like this, because I already cut this part. I already did this part of the craft. And this is the story. These are the different scenes of our story. And whenever we want, we can go and check them out every single time we want and remember the story. And with that, remember that we shouldn't run away from our parents and be alone in a crowded place, because it can be dangerous and our parents worry sick about that. So, yeah. So, first we're gonna work with this. So, I know that yours has one line already with the holes. I did that to make it a little bit easier, because I had to use and your parents know, like, call your parents if your parents aren't with you, hole puncher. But if you do not have that, we can do it with scissors, or we can do it with a pointy pen or a pointy pencil. We can do this. So it's like this. And now we are going to fold it like so. Okay? And where you see the blue dots, the blue marks, the blue circles, we are going to make a hole through those. Like, remember, it's folded. So you can use the point of a pen or a pencil and just, push through the blue circle so it makes a hole like this. Like this. Okay? You're going to do it in every single through every single of those blue circles, okay? And the two sides, okay? So if you open it should look like this after you do the holes, okay? So we're gonna fold it, and in your packet you have two pipe cleaners that have a paper that says 1. That means that those are the ones that we're going to use for this craft, okay? You have another pair, or another one that has a different number. We're not going to use those. We're not going to use that one now, okay? Just the one that says 1, which should be 2. It doesn't matter if the colors are different, okay? So what we're gonna do first, we're gonna take one of the pipe cleaners, and we are going to put it through the first hole in one of the sides. And now we want to do something like this. We want to fold this little end to make sure that our pipe cleaner stays put, okay? And now what we're going to do is that we are going to put our pipe cleaner through every hole like so, like we're sewing, and then through this hole, supposed to be looking like this, and put it once again through this other hole. The same thing we are going to do with the other side. Mine are black and green. So here, through this side, I am gonna fold it so I keep it there. It's folded. Now I am going to put it through this hole, and then I am going to put it through this other one. If you can't do this alone, call your parents or an older sibling, okay? And then do this, the other side. And what are we gonna do with these long ends? We're gonna twist them together. Twist them together like this. And we have like a little pouch. We're gonna have a pouch, and then the story, because this is the lost story, or the finding the story craft. So we're gonna take that pencil that you use to punch the holes, or a marker that you have at hand, and we are going to roll it. We're gonna make like a scroll with this. Okay, like so. I'm trying. Okay, we're doing it. Okay, it's happening. It's happening. It's happening. Scrolling the story. And once we do this, we are gonna put it inside. See? Oh, I can see you. We're gonna put it inside our pouch. And it's there safe, so you don't lose it, okay? And you can take it with you wherever you go, and share the story of Jesus. Take a picture and let me see it, okay? Now we're gonna close our lesson with a prayer. You know the drill. You repeat after me, right? Dear God, remind me that you are always near, blessing my actions. I will stamp my foot on the ground to feel the world you made. I'll clap my hands to praise you. I'll hug myself. I am your child. Amen. God bless.